should be all over. Geronimo's under, and Cincinnati has won the World Championship, beating the Boston Red Sox 4-3. The Reds win it in Fenway Park.
2 balls, no strikes, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth. This could be it, left field. George Foster makes the catch. That's it. The Cincinnati Reds win the World Series. It was a sweep. The final score, Cincinnati 7, the New York Yankees 2.
Welcome in Reds Country Radio, and our esteemed colleague, Red Raider Doug, is with us again today. He is our resident Reds fan. Doug, how the hell are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Good to be here.
Well, we're talking on a Saturday, May 18th. So keep that in mind depending on when you see this. The Reds lost a tough one last night, but they got a big win on Thursday, beating, or should I say smacking down, Tyler Glasnow. That was impressive.
Yes, it was. That was a great night. We needed that one really bad.
I ain't gonna lie, I might have lost some cheese on that game, man. I thought Tyler Glasnow at home. I don't care if he's facing the 1927 Yankees. I figure that's a shoe-in. I woke up the next morning, I was like, son of a gun, Reds won the game. Let's go ahead and start this off though, with Paul Skenes, his debut. I know this is Reds country, but we are talking NL Central. We're going to talk all the National League. But Paul Skenes, his debut, man, was that something to behold. Did you get a chance to watch that?
Yes, I did watch that. I was very keen on watching Skenes, so that was amazing. That was everything. That was everything that the hype about him and what we saw before about him before he started. He lived up to it. He really lived up to it.
Yeah, he was 6 innings, 11 strikeouts, and he was just absolutely he honest engine. So I took him as the first part of our bet for Thursday, right? No, Friday. Sorry. And it was a 220 first pitch, and I actually did a parlay. So I took the Pirates plus a half run, and I took Skenes to exceed his strikeout total. Over under was 6.5. And as we all know, he blew right by that. I mean, that was unbelievable. He blew right by it. He struck out the first 6 guys he faced. I'm like, this is the easiest money I ever made in my life. I wish the hell I'd have put more on it, right?
Yeah.
And he ends up striking out 7 of the first 8 for folks who may not have caught the game. But I mean, the absolute cheese that he has on his fastball, and it comes out so effortless. The Braves are actually playing. I'll be doing the game next week. They're playing the Pirates next week. The way it sets up now, he is going to miss us in the rotation. But that's assuming they don't get a rain out or something. So we'll see how that plays out. Or I don't know what Pittsburgh's idea is going to be on whether or not they decide to go with him every 5th day, every 6th day. Do they pitch him once a week? Like where's that? So starting off his career, he pitched on Saturday. He pitched on, it was Friday, correct? Yeah. So, but there was an off day worked in there. So that's when you would come back around. But it'll be interesting to see what they do because there's going to be an innings limit on Skenes. We know that.
I would assume so. But man, watching him pitch, I would just let him go. I mean, for somebody to come up and show me that much command and control on the ball like that, and and in that game, that 11 innings, I think he only pitched. I think he only threw like what 68, maybe 70 pitches in that 6 inning. He wasn't in there for very long.
In the second game, now I'm not sure about the first game because I know they pulled him. He went 4 innings, 3 earned runs, gave up a home run, 2 walks. There was also a rain delay, so that had a lot to do with what was going on in that first game. That second game, he threw. Because I remember because the broadcaster pointed it out just as it was happening. His 100th pitch was his last pitch.
Oh, okay.
So he threw 100 pitches and got his 11th strikeout.
Yeah, I think I was referring to the first game, his debut. I don't think he threw that many pitches.
No, but there was a rain delay involved in that. Now, I was doing the Braves game at the same exact time, so what I don't know, what I don't remember, I think they pulled him out because he threw a lot of pitches in a small period of time. Plus, he was getting banged around.
Right.
And I follow a lot of these guys that do the lines and stuff, and they were against picking Skenes because the Cubs had just seen him. And I looked at it the totally different saying, typically that's what I go with. If a pitcher is being seen by a batting order twice in a week, I normally figure that the batters are going to catch up to speed, right?
Right.
But what I looked at it was yesterday was I felt like that was all nerves. That, he's in front of his home crowd. He was nervous as hell. It was his first start. This was going to be more indicative of who he is. Now, is he going to go out there and strike out 11? No, that's not. No. But I felt like this is more indicative. Gave me pause when at first pitch, contrary to the weather report, the wind was blowing out of Wrigley. See, when I took the bet that morning, it was blowing in, and it was predicted to be blowing in. Instead, it was blowing out to left. I went, uh-oh. I was like, I might have really stepped in my mess kit on this one. And then he just fired bullets. And I was like, never mind, we good. I saw that one of the fantasy guys, we were talking about this off air, one of the fantasy guys was picking him apart, saying that there was a lot of foul balls on that kind of stuff. Like, dude, you're overthinking it. Like, and look, I know just by following this guy for a while, and not to mention, you get the sense he never really played baseball. Like he's pencil pusher, at the top of the list. Like he's we got a couple of guys that have been on our show from time to time to give you that vibe, but this guy definitely has no athletic ability, right? And I'm like, I don't think you've ever stood at home plate and understood that the guy throwing against you is just better than you typically see. And you got to find a way to cheat. And the one way to cheat against the guy who's throwing fastballs, hammering it by you, especially that first time through the order where it's whiff, 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 you're going to shorten up your swing. You're going to do anything you can to give yourself a chance, put the ball in play. You never know what's going to happen. So that's what was going to happen with Paul Skenes. He was putting the ball in play. He's not, they figured him out. No, they figured him out. He didn't give up a damn hit in 6 innings. He walked 1. It was almost a perfect 6 innings, and he had 11 strikeouts, by the way. So to say, there's a lot of foul balls, like that was the comeback. I'm like, man, I've watched these guys, these power pitchers for years, and they get foul balls because guys will shorten up their swing. They do it to Spencer Strider all the time. I can remember many times watching the great Roger Clemens, all juiced up and everything. Guys were peppering him foul because they're trying to get it. Some part of it is trying to run up the pitch count, but realistically, when you're in the moment at the plate, you're just fighting for your life.
But it's the same thing. You could throw Randy Johnson into that. I was just watching an old game of his against Cleveland, and a good third of the game was him looking up at the pop flies and the pop fouls as well. So
speaking of Randy Johnson, this was on. If you watch Pluto at all, Pluto TV, it's a free streaming service where you can watch all that free stuff. And I watch it all the time because I cut the cord. I got rid of ESPN during the summer. I'm like, I don't watch ESPN. What the hell am I watching that crap for? I'll catch it come football season. So I'm watching this yesterday. As I'm watching the Skenes in the background, I play Pluto TV for my dogs, right? And it's normally on something, whatever. But that day it comes on, and it just happened to be on the MLB channel. And I'm looking over, and I realized the date, and I looked it up and go, son of a gun. Today, I don't know why they played it yesterday. Today is the 20th anniversary of Randy Johnson's perfect game against Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
And they were showing the game. And typically I'd be like, I don't want to see that. But I watched it. I remember, oh man, I remember in agony watching it. I'd just gotten off work. I was working in the restaurant business, just gotten off work. And I caught I'd watched the first part at work, but you don't really watch it. I raced home and I caught the last 3 or 4 innings, like in my room. Back when I was a bachelor, sharing a house with some guys, I watched it in my room to the last out and just in agony. And then walked across the street to one of my best friends still to this day. And he'd just gotten off work and he'd just seen like the last inning, or typically I'd be watching it with him. And I said, did you catch that? He goes, I was like, I know, man, a perfect game. I can deal with a no-hitter, a perfect. God, dog it, drop a bunt, do something. But anyways, and also yesterday was the anniversary. Now, here's something funny. The great Rube Waddell, who was a dominant pitcher in the early 1900s, for folks who aren't familiar, was going up against, so at this point, he was playing for the Philadelphia A's, Connie Mack's A's.
Yep.
He's going up against the Detroit Tigers and Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb broke up his perfect game relatively late in the game. I want to say 6th or 7th inning with a bunt single. That's the only thing he gave up. Remember, there used, and there still would be to this day, there's this code. You didn't do that. Like if you did that nowadays, the next time up, you're getting one in the ribs, if not in the head, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this was 120 years ago almost, and the guy dropped a bunt single. Oh, by the way, they lost like 5-0. It wasn't like a 1-0 game. 1-0 game, I'm going to give you a pass. You're trying to win. I'm like, Ty Cobb did it to Rube Waddell, and as far as I know, there was no information about there being an altercation.
Well,
If anyone would have slapped around Ty Cobb, it would have been Rube Waddell.
but that's Ty Cobb for you. That's just
No,
typical Ty
but my
Cobb.
point is, Ty Cobb was in the era leading up to, you do the game a certain way, the unwritten
Right.
rules. The unwritten rules were written by Ty Cobb, right? And he's dropped. So now I'm starting to reconsider all those arguments of you don't drop a button down. I mean, I know Ty Cobb wasn't scared of anybody, but neither was Rube Waddell. That's why Rube's always going to be one of my favorite players of all time, because he was a wild card. And if there's ever a guy that's going to go up to Ty Cobb and throw him through the dugout, not into it, but throw him through it's Rube Waddell. And anyways, I found that very interesting that Ty Cobb broke up a perfect game late in the game with a drag bunt single and a 5-0 loss. Regular season, but everyone got bent out of shape anytime someone tries to drop a bunt in the 3rd inning in a no-hitter. Anywho, back to the rest of the story. Elly, let's talk about Elly.
Elly.
He's on a tear.
Oh, I'd say he's on a record-setting tear. He's about all the offense.
What is he have? 30 stolen bases at this point?
30 stolen bases. He had 4 against the Dodgers. The first game against the Dodgers. He was the whole offense for our team. He's the one he drove in the RBIs. He stole 4 bases. He was pretty much our entire offense that night against Tyler Glasnow of all people.
Yeah, he so the Reds, 40. Okay, that's what I thought. 45 games into the season, he's got 30 stolen bases.
Yep.
Not to mention the fact, like all his numbers are through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
But the 30 and 45 is the one that really jumped out at me. I mean, I'm like, my God. And he is on pace to match or possibly eclipse what Acuna did last year.
He's halfway there. We're not even done with May. He's almost halfway to 70 already. Depending on the rest of the weekend, I wouldn't be surprised by Monday. He's halfway there.
And as far as home runs, so we're 45 games in. It's a little more than a quarter, but we'll just say for argument's sake, a quarter of the way. You project that out, that's over 30 home runs.
Yeah, if he goes on, he'd be
right at 100 RBI as well.
Yeah.
Oof. He could be on 120 stolen base tear. Probably not. But let's just say 100. 100 stolen bases. 40. Nah, we'll say 30. 30 home runs. And I know it doesn't have the same ring as 40-70, but 3,100. I mean, come on now. I mean, we're talking all time. He's got a 2.1 WAR today, this year, in May. That projects him out to like a 6 to 8 WAR, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's just stupid. By the way, for all the old seam heads, he is batting 270. So it's not like he's mailing it in. He's not going for broke. What's his OPS right now? 873. I mean,
873.
I mean, that's phenomenal. His OPS plus, which is, I know it's projected and predicted, but it's 146, and that's through the roof. For folks who don't understand that one, 100 is the level bar of what the MLB averages. 146 is stupid. I mean, that's just stupid. He's one of my favorite players to watch. I'll put the Reds game on all the time while I'm in studio doing the play-by-play of the Braves game, and I'll have the Reds off to the side. A, because I'm pulling for y'all. B, because I want to see Elly. I want to see Elly flying around them bases. I love to see that dude going nothing but elbows and what's around the base, hair flying, like, go baby, go, let's get it.
Yeah. And that's one thing about him too. And I keep telling people, always remember, this is his only second full year of professional baseball. He hasn't even reached his max potential yet. Because we had talked earlier about, the fantasy guys talking about, I don't like this about him. I don't like this about him. And one knock he had on a couple of weeks ago is he had a high strikeout rate. I think he was up to almost 48% at one point.
I get that, but if your OPS is through the roof, strikeouts be damned, you are absolutely producing.
And that's what I said.
If you got an OPS at 800, that's my bar.
Yeah.
That means you're elite. 700 is acceptable in the middle to top of the lineup in Major League Baseball. It's not ideal, but 700 is the bar.
And remember, now as of today,
800 is extremely good. He's at 873. He's almost at 900.
Yeah. And that's another aspect and that people don't realize is how intelligent he is. And that goes to why I mentioned the strikeout rate. He has now lowered that from 48 to 38 just simply because he keeps working the game. And I love the mental side of his game now. He's really understanding the game of baseball, and that's why you're seeing this him coming of age.
Else to keep in mind too. So, and I'm just talking about from the mentality, the approach. I don't get to see him every night like you do, but take this for what it's worth. So yeah, he's striking out 57 times in 45 games that he has played, 184 plate appearances. So that roughly rounds out to just over, we'll call it 3.5, a strikeout every 3.5. He's also walked 22 times.
Exactly.
So when you're walking a lot, usually your strikeouts are high too, because you're working the count. You're trying to get on base. when you see a guy who's striking out a lot, but he's got a low walk total, that's just a guy who's a free swinger. He's got a high chase rate. So I've got no issue at all on what he's doing.
No,
He's
I don't
got
either.
total bases in 45 games. Then you add the stolen bases, because stolen bases are never counted into the total base.
Right.
So you add that into it. So really, he's got 110 total bases if you count the stolen bags. He has been caught stealing 5, so okay, we'll take 5 off. But whatever, that's still an incredible number.
Oh,
He's
it's
fun.
through the roof.
He's fun. There's no way around. And he's 22. 22.
Yes, 22. Hasn't even filled his frame yet. Hasn't filled that frame.
Man, please stay healthy, because I want to see what this guy's entire career is going to look like. Now, the next question is, let's lock him up, Cincinnati. Let's get him to like a 10-year deal. Let him name his number. Make sure that he is a Cincinnati Red forever.
That's coming.
Don't let this bastard go to the LA Dodgers. Don't let him go to the Yankees. Don't let him go to the Red Sox. Don't let him go to the usual suspects, the ones with the deep pockets. Well, I say Red Sox. They've been clipping coupons the last few years, but I assume eventually someone's going to buy that franchise that doesn't suck.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to. You don't have to panic. I think they will sign him. They'll give him bigger money, because he's under. They've got, if I remember right, with Elly, they've got 7 years of control on him. So I don't think he's.
That doesn't sound right, because that's not MLB rules.
I forget. They've got years of control on him. I don't. I thought it was. I don't know where I got that.
Let me look it up before I misspeak. Let me see. All right. Elly De La Cruz will. Where is his actual? Well, they don't have the breakdown. Well, okay. This is weird. Normally there's a breakdown, and for some reason they have dropped the ball over here. But he came up last year, right?
Yes.
At the very beginning. Well, wasn't he fairly early? Because I feel like I did a game of his pretty early in the season.
He came up, I want to say, in June, or maybe late May, maybe mid-May, because they brought up McLean first, and that was early May. So I want to say it was like late May, early. It might have been towards the end of May.
Okay, so he'll be pre-arb this year and pre-arb last year. Let me see if I can find it over here. Maybe here we go. Here's something. Okay. All right, so he was. Well, they don't have a complete breakdown, but in theory, he's got 4 more years after this one.
Okay, then it's 4, not 7. I'm sorry, then it is 4 years of control.
Because it's a 6-year is the rule. I don't know why in the rule. Normally, Spot Track is right on top of this. Whatever reason, they've spit the bid on Elly De La Cruz, which is really odd. But he is making $742 this year like he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, if I'm not wrong, it depends on when he came up. He'll be pre-arb next year, and then he'll go into arbitration in his 4th year. So he'll get a significant increase.
Right.
His 5th and 6th years where you really get the jump. And that's why a lot of teams like the Braves are locking guys up, because it's going to go comparatively. And looking at his stats, you think about what you're going to have to pay him on the regular at that point. You're talking about, I mean, he's going to make every bit of $25 million in his last few years. So that's why the idea would be lock him up now, pay him a little extra now, but save some money on the back end.
And it's interesting that we're saying it like this, because there was always criticism when during signing players this year why the Reds were so cheap. And if you look at the money that the Reds were given, I think what their GM is doing, what Krause is doing, is he's going to go ahead. He's saving money for arbitration, and I think I think they've got money stashed away to pay Elly, because he held out a lot of money this year, and I think he's saving it for arbitration purposes. Because I think we have
but there eventually comes a point where he's going to be a free agent at age 26, age 27.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the perfect time to go arbitration. That's essentially what happened with Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper got to the show early. Bryce Harper was going to ended up being a free agent, and Washington couldn't re-sign him. And he got the 13-year retardo deal that, still to this day, I still can't believe that there was talk going into this offseason or preseason where there was talks about extending him again. I'm like, he hasn't even been there. What are we talking about with Bryce Harper?
Yeah.
And Bryce Harper tried to sell it as, I'd like to be a Philly the rest of my entire career. No, what you're really doing is you're trying to get yourself a pay hike one last time.
Yeah.
Because you're going to hit an age where, why would I ever do that? Right? And like, for instance, Harper is going to be 38. Well, he'll be 39 at free agency in 2031. Why the hell would you sign him to anything? Any kind of extension? Nah, I'm going to ride it out. We'll see how you are at age 38. If you're still kicking and licking at age 37, maybe. Now we're good, Brycey. Go sit down, son. Take that Flowbee to your head and, just go sit down. We already gave you $330 million. I'm not going to keep jacking up my AAV. But that's the kind of but remember, Harper was teammates with Max Scherzer, so he's probably still friends with him. So they're all about the money. Yeah. You see this with Max Scherzer, they've already put him on the 60-day IL again because he's not. I thought it was odd that they were talking about him coming back as early as they were speaking of Max Scherzer coming back today. I mean, basically right about now. And now he's been pushed back. Oh, he's got arm issue. Yeah, because he's cooked. He is cooked. The Mets will pay the freight. The Rangers got a World Series out of it, but not really. He didn't do anything. He sucked. I covered that World Series. He was batting practice. But he'll convince you that he's still Max Scherzer of 5 years ago. He hasn't been worth a crap since about 2021.
Mm-hmm.
2022 was the year that they spit the bit and choked the wild card, the division away when Atlanta ran them down. And the biggest thing was down the stretch, he was getting smoked and he got drilled in the series versus Atlanta that essentially clinched the division. Then he goes to the playoffs. He gets smoked by the Padres. And then 2023, last year, he comes back. And if you remember something about 22, he started off injured. He comes back last year, and he sucked. He was getting smacked around. They traded him. Got smacked around, and now he's hurt again. He's done. And he's making, 40-something million? 41, 42 million, somewhere in that. Woo! Hot coffee coming in, baby. You better duck.
Oh, what a great door prize to retirement.
For all the woes that we could have for our teams, at least your team didn't sign a 3-year, $130 million. That's what it was, 130, to a guy who was in his 40s.
I can't imagine the Reds spending $100 million, period.
No.
Wow. Boy, oh boy.
I guess this is the last year of that deal. I was thinking that, no, it's Scherzer that gets picked up for one more year if he hits X amount of innings. And he's on pace to do that. So this is Scherzer's last hurrah. So that'll free up money for the Mets next year. And then they'll still have to pay the freight for Verlander, assuming he hits his numbers and gets the innings. What a terrible, terrible, terrible general manager that was.
That was horrible. I mean, look,
Not to mention, your boy Edwin Diaz is getting smacked around. He's got an ERA north of 3, and they gave him $100 million for a 5-year deal as a closer. And I think he's got elite stuff. Don't get me wrong, but a 5-year deal for a closer, $20 million a year. The year 1, he misses for the entire year because of an injury, a goofy injury. And this year, they came back and won the game, but he lost the game against the Phillies. The Phillies smoked him. And essentially, he was being signed to beat the Phillies, to beat the Braves. And he stinks.
Oh,
And he'll get it figured out by next year. He'll be all right, but you basically thrown out $40 million out the window.
Well, at least he and his brother can console him, because his brother Alexis isn't doing that hot with the Reds right now. But I don't think it's his fault. It's Lucas Sims is not setting him up, so Alexis Diaz is not having the success he had last year. Plus, with the games being so close, 2-1 losses, 3-2 losses that we've been having, I don't think he's closed the game in 5 days. So he's weeping as well.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes down to the starting pitching. But at the same token, you got to get some runs. You got to get some runs. You got to get breathing room.
Well, that's the thing. It's interesting you say that, because Abbott's last start, he pitched a good game. He could have used a little run support in that game. I think they would have won that game. But there was just nothing going on in that department. There was no runs coming that night. And he pitched in the 7 innings. He did well. But you can't win a game if you don't score a run.
That was against Arizona, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I remember watching that game. I can't remember who he was going against. But yeah, so they scored 7 runs Thursday night, but yet last night they scored 3 against Paxton. Paxton's actually been pretty solid. It really has amazed me that he continues to push back the clock. I mean, someone needs to get that guy to pee in a cup, is all I'm saying. They lose 2-1 against Arizona on Wednesday. They scored 6 runs. That was against, it was essentially a bullpen game with Sassoni on the mound for Arizona. And they lose 6-5 on Monday. Diaz got the loss there. But you don't see a whole lot of crooked numbers being put up in the innings. You're seeing them scratch out a run here and there. There's been a couple outliers, but all in all, that offense ought to be putting up more runs.
Oh yeah, I mean their run differential going into today is a -2. I mean it's average.
I was sitting here last show we did talking about how the Cardinals are done, and they're now a half game in front of Cincinnati.
I know.
It's been pitiful. And when the hell is Milwaukee going to realize they're Milwaukee and start losing some games?
I'm not listening to anybody with common sense right now, boy. I'll tell you what.
I don't even understand how. Like, I look at their roster, and it's so Tampa Bay Ray to me right now. Like, you look at it and go, who the hell are these guys? And yet they're 26-18.
Well, I'll tell you one player on that team who's just been a hitting phenom from the catching position. William Contreras is having himself a season, and he's been leading.
Does he?
What's that?
That dude doesn't suck, does he?
No, William. No,
dude,
I
did not want to lose him when we traded away for him, or traded him away. I did not want to lose him. I still say, when it's all said and done, it was not a great trade, because as much as I like Sean Murphy, and he's been on the shelf all year, but as long as I like Sean Murphy, Contreras is a better hitter. And I have not personally seen all the hype that I was told that Sean Murphy was this elite defensive catcher. He is solid, but nothing jumps off the. He's not JT Realmuto, and that's what I was being sold, a bill of goods. So if he's not JT Realmuto, and the way they've shortened the bases, he gets stolen on all the time, just like every other catcher, because they've shortened the bases, right?
Right.
So what you did was you got rid of a cheaper, better stick to basically still get your catcher ran on, because everyone's going to run on Contreras. I get that. He's not a great defensive catcher. But they're running on everybody. The only guys they don't run on is like JT Realmuto and maybe like 2-3 other catchers in the league, and that's it. But we were being told Sean Murphy was going to be it. I'm telling you right now, William Contreras, he is a hitter, man. He is an absolute hitter.
He just smacking the skin off that ball. I mean, it's amazing to watch. I mean, I thought he played this year because I kind of grabbed him in my fantasy leagues. I was like, oh, please let me be right about something for once. And boy, he has not disappointed. I hate it because he's a dosh gone freaking Brewer, but you can't argue with the results.
He's elite, man. He's I mean, as far as fantasy purposes, that's a different argument.
I know.
He's arguably the best. But I never end up getting guys like that because I don't draft catchers high, because I'm stubborn that way. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not drafting a catcher high. Not going to do it. There's plenty of them. They're much more better hitting catchers nowadays than there were in the past. But yeah, if I could cherry pick a catcher, that'd probably be the one I would want.
Yeah, I just did that.
Because even on days where he's not behind the plate, they're putting him at DH from time to time.
Yep. But as far as picking him high, I just went out on a ledge. I said, you know what? I'm going to break my rule because I have the same rule as you do. I don't take catchers high. I was just kind of you know what? To heck with it. I'm gonna just take a risk and see if it plays out.
I don't know if I had this hat the last time we did the show, but can you make it out? WKRP in Cincinnati, baby.
I love it.
I don't know if that comes on the screen well or not. I'm seeing it now. I don't know if there's a glare or not, but that's the reason why I got the hat for the show, and arguably one of my favorite shows of all time, because I always loved radio even when I was a kid. So I loved WKRP in Cincinnati. If I did wear it before and talk about it before, I do apologize. So we're sitting in last place, but it's not like we're the Marlins, right? We're not 18 games out. Oh God, it's over. 7.5, a long way to go. And they've arguably played the worst baseball. They've lost 7 of their last 10. They're on a tough road trip. It's always tough to go out west.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would be thrilled if they could figure out a way to split the next 2 days against the Dodgers. And then after the Dodgers series, it looks like the Reds are off Monday, and then we go to Tuesday, and they're back home against the Padres.
Yep.
Split these next 2 games. That's all I'm asking. Split these next 2 games. And hopefully, I mean, it's a little difficult because Pittsburgh's in front of us right now as well. But the big picture, you want Pittsburgh to hang a loss on the Cubs, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the next 2 games. They're not going to go in and sweep the Cubs in Chicago, I wouldn't think. I'm still not worried about St. Louis. I still say they're done. The only reason why the Reds fell behind them is because the Reds are just playing terrible baseball right now. But I look at that Cardinals roster, and they tried to take masking tape and chewing gum and put together a pitching staff that sucks. I mean, they're just terrible. For the long haul, they're not going to go out there. They're like last night, Gibson beat Bayo. All right. that happens, but that's not going to happen on a given night, right?
Yeah.
And then the other big thing, obviously, we got to start getting some losses on Milwaukee. They're in Houston this weekend. And then if you look at the Milwaukee schedule coming up, they're at Miami. You don't like that.
No.
But it's in Miami. That's a weird place. Some teams play terribly in that stadium. I mean, hell, Zach Wheeler got his can bounced around last Sunday. And we know Zach Wheeler's elite. He got smoked in he always gets smoked in Miami. I never understand it. But I noticed it like the last couple of years. I won't take the Phillies if Zach Wheeler's in Miami. I'm like, no, he's going to get smacked around. He's going to do it. And sure enough, did it. It happened to him again.
Yeah.
I just have zero faith in this Marlins team, so I didn't take Miami. I just stayed away from it. But then they go to Boston. And the interesting thing about that is the tail end of a long road trip, Houston to Miami to Boston. There could be some L's coming their way. Hopefully one, maybe even two this weekend. And then I would think Boston could take 2 of 3. They have the pitching matchups up, but they could change. So I won't do a deep dive on that. When they're in Miami, that's they do face Luzardo, but the other two are bums, Weathers and Rogers.
Oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're going to come home and they're going to face the Cubs for a 4-game series. That's right. No, I'm sorry. It actually starts Memorial Day, the Monday of Memorial Day, and then it projects out. Weirdly enough, they'll be at home for the entire week, and they're playing the Cubs and the White Sox.
Oh.
So there'll be a lot of crime in the streets of Milwaukee that week, all the Chicago fans coming in.
Yeah.
And then this is where I think the rubber could meet the road. This is where you're already kind of gassed. You're not, by the way, not getting days off. There's not many days off on what I just mentioned. They go to Philly. They go to Detroit. They're going to face some tough pitching. They come home. They play Toronto, who's always squirrely, in Cincinnati.
Well, Toronto doesn't know who they want to be. They're great 1 second, then they're gassed the second. I mean, so who don't know who I'm going to get.
Milwaukee will win that series, but maybe Toronto gets one. And then it's interesting, looking out towards the All-Star break for Milwaukee. They've got they've got 2 more West Coast trips that are due up. They're going to go to the Angels and Padres, come home to face the Rangers and Cubs. That ain't going to be easy. Then they got to go to Colorado. This is interesting. They go to a 4-game set to Colorado. Well, I know stinks, but it's going to be hot by that time. The ball's going to be flying. Your bullpen's going to get weak. They finished that at the Dodgers. Oh, that's going to be that's going to wear you out. And then right before the All-Star break, they're at home against Pittsburgh. Hopefully they run into Skenes and Jared Jones back to back. And the Nationals, who are playing much better baseball, people haven't paid attention to it. Much better baseball.
Nick Senzel's got that offensively. He's got that team in a much better direction than we thought. Believe it or not.
Yeah. And the Nationals, I mean, Nationals are sitting right now 3 games under 500. That's nothing to sneeze at.
No, that's not too bad.
Especially when I feel like if I'm the general manager of the Washington Nationals, my goal is actually to get them competitive for a division in 2026, right? Yep. They're still a couple years away because they're going to need 1 more year of getting all their prospects up, ones that they got in all those trades they made. And then the tail end of 2025, the free agent season, Washington is going to be very aggressive. They're going to be very aggressive in that market. And so they're 2 years ahead of schedule in what put the Marlins aside in what is a tough division. Now, as far as the Reds are concerned, we'll hit them real quick. What they've got looking at on their schedule. Because realistically, you can look at the team you're chasing all you want, but you got to win games. We're at LA. It's a late game tonight at 9:00. So country club members will get this show immediately. The non-country club members we'll drop this around 8:00 tonight, so everyone's got a chance to watch it before it comes on. To the public. So then you've got at home against San Diego, at home against the Dodgers again. Jesus.
Yep.
Looks like we're going to dodge Glasnow this time. Well, we will face Yamamoto. Bueller hasn't been great. Bueller pitches tonight. We'll see what he does, but he's still working his way back. Then at home against the Cardinals. At Chicago, at Colorado, at home against Chicago. That's a very important set will be the end of May, which is Cardinals, Cubs, Brewers, Pirates, and Pirates again. We'll see all that before the end of June, and a 4-game set that goes into St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I love the most about their schedule. Keep your head above water. Just find a way to fight your way somewhere near 500 when we get to after the 4th of July. So the 5th of July. Listen to this. All of these games are at home going to the All-Star break. So we're talking about what? 10 games at home. A 10-game homestand before the All-Star break. That's ideal. Detroit, their offense stinks. Good pitching, but their offense stinks. Colorado for 4 and the Marlins for 3. Bruh. That's in 10 games. I feel like we got to win 7 of them, if not 8.
Yes.
I feel like there's a possibility for a sweep somewhere. Now, I know that's a lot to put on a baseball team that's 7 games under 500 right now, but that's I've been looking at this all in the preseason coming in. Is that if they can get to the 5th of July within striking distance, maybe they're not playing great, but maybe the teams in front of them play a little worse right now. Get within, like, let's say 5 games. So make up a couple of games. What are we? 8 games in the loss column, 7 in the win column behind the Brewers. So if we get within 5 games, that Detroit, Colorado, Miami homestand, that is going to be easy money.
Yep.
And then you could possibly you probably won't be in first place at the end of it all. If you're within a weekend, you're within a puncher's throw of first place by the All-Star break. Let's go. You come out of that All-Star break, and now we're buying, not selling.
Yep.
What's your thoughts? I've talked a lot. What's your thoughts?
I just the one thing that comes off, and a lot of people criticize, why the Reds can't hit. Always remember, we have got these guys that are hitting for it now, like Fairchild and Espinal and Ford. They weren't even supposed to be on this baseball team. With Friedel still out, and now he's injured again. With what's his name on suspension, Strand is gone. If we could get some of these players back, which I think we're going to get TJ Friedel back in about a week or 2, when his suspension is done, Noles Marte might come back. I think, like you said, if we can tread rudder going into the All-Star break and we get some of these guys back, maybe even Matt McClain by August, maybe. Cross your fingers on that one.
Have you heard anything new on him?
The word on the street right now is that he's looking to come back, maybe second week of August right now. That's the rumor mill. It's not official, but that's the word. That's the word behind the scenes on him. Best case scenario is second week of August. That's if his rehab goes right.
Well, I mean, and then of course, how long does it take for him to get going?
Exactly. But if we could at least get Friedel and Strand and Marte even back and get them into this lineup, go, right at probably, I think the 80 game suspension is right after the All-Star break or somewhere in there. If we could get those three guys back at 100%, and we have tread water, like you said, and we're going into that easy part of our schedule, I think the team would be
here's
like
my
day
number
and
one
night.
question. Is David Bell on the hot seat?
David Bell's on the hot seat every year. Anything goes wrong, the entire city of Cincinnati goes, kill Bell, kill Bell. I've gone through this with Bell for years. This isn't a Bell problem when I get,
I feel like he's been there. How long has he been there? It's been a hot minute, hasn't it?
Yeah, Bell's been with Reds for what, 5? I want to say 5, 6 years?
If
not
like
longer.
It's been a long time.
Well, they were always, after with the last season, he was supposed to be promoted. They were going to move him up to work with Crawl.
Yeah, 2019. So yeah, this is in theory his 6th season.
Yeah, his 6th season, and
if you don't want to count,
yelled at him. Everybody's yelled. Yeah, and everybody's yelled at him the whole time. That's Cincinnati fans. If any little thing goes wrong, they cry. I don't think he's done a bad job. I don't like some of the things he does. I think sometimes he needs to leave pitchers in a little bit longer. I don't know why our bullpen is bad right now, but yet he sends Sam Maul, who's actually pitched well. He goes back in the minors, and you're keeping Lucas Sims around, who's a dumpster fire right now. He's like the worst setup man in baseball right now. He's playing bad, and it's affecting Diaz's performance as well. So there's little things I can question about him, but I think overall he's done a good job, and I give him part of the credit of putting the team that we had last year. I just think we have to weather these injuries. I'd like to see Spencer Steer. He's getting contact on the ball, but he's not getting runs. It's not showing up. But I don't think overall it's a Bell problem. But if this continues and we go into another 9-10 game slide, the screams are going to get really loud. And it may put Crawl and the ownership in a position where you might see him gone. But anything less than a disaster, I don't see him going anywhere. And I don't want to go. I like David Bell. I understand how David Bell runs a baseball team. I get it. The rest of Cincinnati might not, but I do anyway.
There comes a point where you got to take Sims out of the setup role. I mean, he's got a God bless.
He's horrible. I hate to see it because I like him.
He's got a 5.02 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
That's not setup material.
No. But that's basically what his purpose in that bullpen was supposed to be. And he's been horrible.
That is unbelievable that he would be the setup man.
Yeah. Because
I'm looking at his game log. It's not like it was one game that blew him up. I mean, he's been bad.
Yes. But yet Sam Maul, who after his injury came back in 6 games, I don't have his stats in front of me, but he was brilliant. I don't understand why they sent him back down.
Here's the key. Remember, I always talk about a batter. If he's 800 and he's having a year, 7 to 750, you'll deal with it. You like your guys top the order 750 to 800 OPS, right?
Mm-hmm.
His batting average against Lucas Sims, the average is only 212, but his OPS is 828. He is getting rocked. That is awful.
Yep.
He's got to be ahead of a negative WAR at this point, doesn't? Well, it's right at 0, but that's only because they're factoring in they don't have the lead when he comes in all the time. But that's the problem with going off of WAR, especially with relief pitchers. It's very flawed. But man, that is awful.
Mm-hmm. And
yeah, I wouldn't give up on him. He's got good stuff, but you got to take him out of the setup role. You got to put him 6th, 7th inning guy. Let some other guys. Maybe you just have a grab bag and you see what sticks the wall. it's like, from a Braves fan's perspective, every time Iglesias is unavailable, Snicker wants to use AJ Minter as the closer. AJ Minter's not a closer. And if you look at his numbers, his ERA is extremely high in closing situations in his career. It's like 7.5. But the rest of the time, setup role, man, he's money. Everybody's human. You're going to have a bad outing, but he's a great reliever. So quit putting him in the closing role. Well, same thing here with Sims. If Sims is not getting it done in the setup role, because the later you get in the game, the better the at-bats get for the players. They take them more seriously. I know fans don't want to hear this, but they go through the motions sometimes. And sometimes in the first, second at-bat, third at-bat, whatever. But you get to the 8th inning, you get to the 9th inning, really 7th inning on, it becomes so much more difficult to pitch because these guys are locked in. They have been studying you. They're expecting you. Let's get it. Sims needs to go. I would argue at that number, 7th inning, the earliest I want to see him. The earliest.
That's why I wanted to move Victor Cruz up into that setup role because he's been money this year. I would move him out and then put Sims back into the later innings. Hell, I would even put Buck Farmer in that spot. Buck Farmer's doing a lot better than Sims is doing. Move Cruz.
Not to mention, it's a great name, Buck Farmer.
Yeah, gotta love that
His
name.
ERA is 2 runs higher than it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
That is not good.
No.
His strikeouts per 9 are about on point. His walks per 9 are about on point. But he's given up more home runs per 9. He's 2.5 per 9 as opposed to 0.7 last year. His whole career, he's averaged about 1.3 home runs per 9, and that's factoring in this year. He's at 2.5 this year. His whip is much higher too. He's at 1.4 right now. Last year it was 1.18. I mean, just everything across the board, every metric that I'm looking at, even all the goofy nerd metrics, the ones that are make believe and expected this and expected that, they're all showing that he's getting his ass kicked.
Yep.
Anyways, what is your walk off, sir? We got to jam up out of this camp.
Walk off. My walk off is Reds fans don't panic. Remember, a lot of our players have been sick, especially Jake Fraley. Jake Fraley just has now come back. Don't worry about it. Play Jake Fraley more. He needs to be an everyday player. That's my walk off.
My walk off is I don't know if I'll do another show in the near future, so I do want to recognize one of our biggest fans, biggest listeners over the years. Michael passed away Thursday from heart problems. He's had some issues for the last couple of years. I did not think, nobody thought it was this bad, and it progressed very, very quickly. And they will lay him to rest this afternoon. I wish I could be there. Just wasn't in the cards for us to be able to get out of town. A very quick turnaround. But Michael was a huge sports fan. He was a Boston Red Sox fan. He was a Florida State football fan. He was in all of our chats. He loved fantasy football, just the whole 9 yards, and very, very dedicated, way back to when we were Armchair Quarterbacks Radio, all the way to the present where everything's been framed under the country radio thing. I just want to give some love to Michael, and we've lost a couple over the past few years, and it really is sad to keep burying these guys. I guess where I get at is this: 2 things. A, take care of your health. Make sure you're going to the doctor. Make sure you're staying on top of things. Make sure you're exercising, all that kind of stuff. But also, the big picture is this: when you're with people, whether it's friends, family, whatever, make sure that they know how much you mean to them, or that they mean to you, I guess I should say, because we get a very short time on this earth, and little time to spend with each other, even less time to spend with each other because of our busy lives. And I just want to say thank you to all the listeners, all the viewers over the years. Michael is Hall of Fame worthy as far as our listeners are concerned. And I enjoy every minute that I get with guys like you, Doug, on the regular, to get to sit and talk sports, one of our favorite things to do. And it's not fair, man. It's not fair.
Well,
We'll go ahead and lead out of here with some Cincinnati Reds goodness after all that little sad stuff I gave to you.
Lansford, good hitting Oakland third baseman, and Myers bringing it. And the pitch is hit in the air, foul, off first. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.